Are we all going to experience the same future? We are living on this planet, hurtling through space as we are going ever more into our future. But will the future be the same for all of us? Are we all destined, us and our children, and our children's children, determined to live out this one collective future reality? What about our souls? What if you throw reincarnation into the mix? Then it gets interesting. Will we reincarnate into the same future? Lots of questions, and in this video I will answer these questions and go in depth into the reality of timelines. At the end, I will also share a channeling that I did that addresses this very topic. Hi everybody, my name is Jens Pateu and welcome to my channel for cutting-edge information about conspiracy, metaphysics, and reality. Today I'm going to talk about timelines. I will discuss some personal experiences, other people's experiences, and also what it means for you personally, and what the secret is for shifting timelines. We cannot talk about timelines without talking about time, so before we go any further into this discussion, I really want to discuss what time actually is. The modern scientific foundation for understanding time comes from the concept of space-time, the model where space and time are woven into one structure. They say we live in a four-dimensional space-time with three spatial dimensions that we can see, and then we have the fourth dimension, which is time. But actually, time is a bit of a mystery for science because it doesn't fully understand why time moves forward. It only explains how it behaves. Now, what science has discovered is that time is relative. The theory of relativity explains how time is not fixed and absolute, but instead it's flexible, dynamic, and depends on motion and gravity. Before Einstein introduced the theory of relativity, people assumed time ticked at the same rate everywhere, but that is not true. Einstein showed that mass bends space-time. So when gravity is strong, time runs slower. For example, at a mountaintop or in a satellite, gravity is weaker and time runs faster. Of course, for us that difference is so small that it is imperceptible, but it can be measured. They sent very accurate atomic clocks up on a satellite, and the atomic clock in satellites runs faster because there's less gravity there. So technically, the more gravity, the slower you age. Especially around black holes where gravity is really strong, this effect becomes really pronounced. So I actually agree with the theory of special relativity that time is relative because I actually experienced that myself, but more on that later. So mainstream science has already discovered that time is relative, but metaphysics takes it much, much further. Now, what I'm going to describe here is how I view time and how other people view it in the metaphysical field of study. So basically, yes, time is a dimension, but all time exists simultaneously. Now, some of you might think, how the hell is that possible? All time exists simultaneously. Doesn't time flow from the past into the future? Let me explain. When we are incarnated here in the third dimension, we are experiencing time as a flow from one moment to the next. We are experiencing cause and effect. That is because we are locked in the space-time dimension. But when you take a multidimensional perspective, you can see all of time. In a multidimensional perspective, there is only the now moment. There is only the eternal now from which all of time of our reality can be perceived. And to make it even more complicated, there is not one timeline. There are numerous timelines. So from a multidimensional perspective, you can perceive all of time, not just one past and one future that we are experiencing, for example, but multiple alternate pasts and futures. You know, it really boggles the mind when you think about it. It's almost incomprehensible. And to make it even more complex, our reality is multidimensional, and in each dimension, time behaves differently. In the astral reality, for example, time is much more malleable and is experienced differently than in our 3D physical reality. I actually had an experience which confirmed that for me. It happened with a dream actually. When we dream, we are entering the astral world, where time is really different from our waking consciousness in 3D physical reality. And it was one morning where I woke up at like 8 o'clock in the morning. I woke up by the alarm. I snoozed it, but immediately I fell asleep again because I was very tired. And immediately I started dreaming again. and it was a very long dream. Now, of course, you can't specify the exact time in a dream, but I know that dream, the experience lasted for like hours and hours. It was like a full day. In the dream, I visited different places and met with different people whom I talked to. It was very long. It was as if I was on a journey that took a whole day. But when I woke up again, with the alarm clock going off, I was quite surprised because only 5 minutes had passed. I was really shocked because the dream was super long, and if time would be the same in all dimensions, there is no way this dream could have happened in 5 minutes because it was just such a long dream. So this shows how time is really relative and not really the same between different dimensions. This is also something that people who have had near-death experiences report, but even more pronounced. People with a near-death experience say that in the few minutes they are clinically dead, they feel like they have been away for days or even weeks, or they have had an experience of timelessness, that they were somehow in a place that there was no time. That in that relatively short period of time where they were clinically dead, they saw their whole life pass by, and they experienced it. It's the same thing for ghosts, for example. Ghosts are people that have passed on, but still linger around in places, in the astral dimension that is close to our physical reality. That's why we can perceive them sometimes, but ghosts can hang around for decades or even hundreds of years in a place. And for them, it doesn't feel like hundreds of years because they experience time a lot different. They are more outside of our space-time than us, so they can hang around for a very long time from our perspective, while for them, it's actually not that long. Other things that can cause this warped experience of time is also certain kinds of drugs. They can also give you that weird experience of time, especially, the entheogenic drugs like ayahuasca or DMT. With those substances, your consciousness is really catapulted into other dimensions. And it can really mess with people if you are not ready for that. So you have to be careful with those substances. Also, people who have out-of-body experiences, like the people who have had near-death experiences, also have reported this. One of the most famous out-of-body explorers is Robert Monroe. In his books, he describes his astral travels and also the relativity of time. I remember a scene in one of his books where he describes a soul deciding to incarnate on Earth. And he says that soul actually had different entry points into different times on Earth. It could, for example, incarnate as a Roman soldier, but it could also incarnate in the 24th century, or like 10,000 years ago. So that experience really showed the relativity of time. Another out-of-body explorer that I really liked was Michael Rhodes. Now, I talked about Michael Rhodes quite a bit on my channel, and he traveled in his light body, also into the past, into the future, into different timelines. In one of his last books, he describes visiting the Earth hundreds of millions of years ago when there was like one supercontinent called Pangaea. And he describes how that time still exists because he can still visit it. He describes how humans even existed back then. So our official theory of evolution is actually totally incorrect, which is another thing, one of my favorite subjects that I talk about a lot, but that's the subject for a different video. Michael Rhodes also talked about parallel realities. He said we have multiple 3D realities running parallel alongside each other, each with their own timelines. He said that multiple 3D realities were stacked next to each other like the pages from a book, so like this, and each page is like a dimension of ours. So they're all next to each other, but they're parallel 3D realities. And some of these realities had a lower frequency and some had a higher frequency. And frequency-wise, our reality, we were kind of like in the middle of the book, in the middle of the pages. So this also ties into the cycles of the Earth. In some cycles of the Earth, souls can incarnate, and in others, they can't. So time is associated with the bigger cycles of the Earth. And I'm going to give you an interesting quote here from Rudolf Steiner, who talked about this. Rudolf Steiner was an anthroposophist, a mystic that talked about these concepts even in the early 20th century. He said, and I'm going to quote here, "Our solar system is like a cradle for the development of spiritual beings. The various planets provide different conditions for beings at various stages of evolution. So also our Earth provides an environment to host souls and to provide an environment for the development. That environment is intrinsically related to the evolutionary stage of our planet Earth and humanity. During certain disruptive evolutionary stages, as in catastrophes of the separation of the sun, the separation of the moon from the Earth, or the ice ages, the Earth does not provide the conditions for souls to incarnate. At other stages, when conditions are right, souls can descend from other planetary realms and incarnate in a human physical body on Earth and go through experiences furthering their development, or contribute to the development of the community of human beings on Earth. So this is what Steiner said about it. So we can see how linear time on Earth provides different time periods for souls to get different experiences in a different frequency in a different time on Earth. This is how these greater cycles of time provide the framework for souls to incarnate into. Like Robert Monroe said, souls can choose different time periods, different timelines to incarnate into. So it's clear that when we talk about time, it's really a very complicated subject, and there is not one future. There are actually multiple possible futures, multiple timelines, multiple roads that we can take. And this is also what humanity is going to become more aware of as we are expanding our consciousness as a humanity. Science still doesn't really accept this, but as we will grow in consciousness, this will become common knowledge for all of us. I mean, the theory of relativity was just a first tiny step that we have taken into expanding our consciousness about the relativity of time. Science still has a lot of catching up to do, and when science embraces metaphysics, it will grow 100-fold. So, the implications of the fact that all time exists simultaneously and that there are multiple timelines is far-reaching. It means that not everybody shares the same future. It means souls can have different experiences on different timelines. And this brings me back to the key point of this video. Not all souls will experience the same timeline, and that is really becoming more pronounced in our times. It's really interesting to ponder these questions, like, if timelines are splitting, what will determine what reality, what timeline we will experience? You know, how will the splitting happen? And I actually got some answers to these questions in a download, a channeling that I received. I was wondering, like, how is the future going to work out? Because, you know, a lot of people watch me know that I'm into conspiracy and that there's also a dark cabal on the planet Earth. And I was wondering, what's going to happen to us? Is the dark cabal going to join us on the future timeline? What is going to happen to them as the Earth rises in frequency? How is this all going to work out? And as I was, pondering these questions, I got the following channel message, which I will read for you now. The Earth is on a threshold of a new dawn. Whilst you see the chaos of the old system imploding like an echo, the basis of a new reality is already firmly entrenched. It is a matter of time, and it needs to take time before the metaphysical change will fully manifest and unfold in your third-dimensional time reality. Chaos will continue for some time. The process is irreversible. Lots of beings are assisting you at this time. The process is carefully scrutinized and watched. You are being helped. You do not need to be concerned with the direction the people, including the dark ones, will go. Each being will fall into his own vibrational match and will continue in the reality he vibrates with. This window of time you are currently in is like a giant sieving process. Whilst you are all in one basket now, so to speak, the realities are splitting, and each will go through his own sieving process to land in another basket they most align with. There are multiple baskets. This is not a judgment, it is a sieving. There is no judgment involved in this natural process. Government structures will break down and transform into new forms that are less authoritarian and based more in equality and cooperation. It will also be the task of the people in creating new structures and a new model of society. This is your job, and nobody will do it for you. You need to organize yourselves. There will be challenges of a different nature than you previously encountered in this. Firmly trust the process and do not get into doom and gloom scenarios. They are only creating disturbances on the field of your consciousness that are useless and a waste of energy. They do not serve any purpose. There is a knowing deep within you all that is aware of this process and your divine nature. We see this knowing as a true reality and all is happening as the natural process of shifting realities unfolds. So I found this message to be really interesting and enlightening, and as I was channeling this, I saw a vision in my head of how the splitting of reality, the splitting of into different timelines for souls is going to happen. I saw this board with balls falling into different sections, into different baskets actually that they were describing. And actually I didn't know the name of this kind of board, but I looked it up afterwards, I searched for it, and it's called a Galton board. And as you see here, it's kind of like a sieving process. The souls are represented by the balls, and they will end up in their own timeline based on their own vibration. And that is the key. You determine your reality by the frequency you embody. Let me repeat this again because it's very important. You determine your reality by the frequency you embody. This means that the future is not set. This means we are the masters of our own ship. We are the captains of our soul's destiny. This is very, very important. In these very important times on Earth, we are experiencing a giant sieving process. Right now on Earth, we are all in the same pot. We are all, mixed together, but the timelines will split. And each soul is going to magnetize to a certain timeline that is most compatible with its frequency. This is what all these metaphysical texts for ages have been talking about, is the splitting of timelines. If the Earth is going to ascend into a higher dimension, it means it's ascending into a higher timeline for one version of the Earth, but there are actually multiple versions of future Earth. So, as I've said a lot in my own work, your frequency is very, very important because it basically determines your future timeline as a soul. That's why it's so important to raise your frequency and to work on that. And I've created a course which helps you with that. It's called 14 Days to a Higher Vibration. And it's really designed to work on that core frequency to get you into the higher vibration and to be, to be more congruent with that future timeline on Earth where there's more love, there's more peace, there's more happiness. And in a way, that future is already existing because we just got to grow ourselves into it. So my course is a practical 14-day program designed to help you clear blocks, to balance your energy and connect to your true self. You will be able to use the tools you learn in this course for years to come. I use all these tools in there myself on a daily and weekly basis. They are battle tested throughout the years and they've really helped me. You'll find the link in the description below and it's 50% off right now for my followers. Take a look if you're interested. So to finish this video, in the end, it comes down to us, to our frequency. And as I explained, and as the channeled message explained, our frequency will determine what reality we will experience. So there's actually no need to worry, because we are the masters of our ship, we are the captains of our own souls by the frequency which we emit. There is nobody that can control us if we don't allow it. There is nobody that can control our future if we consciously decide to take care of our frequency. Because in the end, we have the power. That's how the universe works. The universe works by the process of resonance. You will be attracted to what you most resonate with. So choose wisely, choose love. Thanks for watching. And if you like this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in another video. Thank you. Bye-bye.